Hi there! In today's video, I will show you how I created an app that can read your mind. And I will show you how I did it with ChatGPT and the OpenAI API. Now, when I say it will read your mind, what I actually mean is that it will ask you yes or no questions about what you're thinking about, and then it will try to guess what you're thinking about. So let me first demonstrate how this works. So let me think about something. I will think about a dog. Start with something simple. So a dog is not an abstract idea or a concept, nor is it an object. It is, however, an animal. It is not a person or character or object or thing or other, whatever that means. It is a mammal. Does it belong to a category carnivore? Well, I guess technically. I will say I don't know because I'm not sure. It is a pet. It is not a rodent or livestock or primate. It is a domestic animal. Does it have a good sense of smell? Well, yes, dogs have a good sense of smell. Can it see in the dark? I don't know. It is an animal, I told you that already. It has a tail. It cannot climb trees. Does it need shelter? Well, I guess a dog needs shelter. It needs companionship as well. And it likes to play. It is a pet. It has 4 legs. It has fur as well. It has to be groomed. And it can be trained. Is it easily excitable? Well, yes, it is. Does it need to go to the vet? Sure. Does it need to be watered? No. Can it be taught to respond to commands? Yes, it can. Can it be trained to fetch? Yes. Does it need to be fed? Of course. Does it bark? I think we're getting close. Yes. Can it jump? Yes, it can. Does it need exercise? Yes. You are thinking about a dog. Now, that's just one example. Let me pick something else. So let me go here to my database and I will select from 775 different things, something random. So let's pick something here that I know how to describe. Alright, here's a good one. Television. Let's see. Start over. It is an object or thing. It is not a person or character. It is not other. It is not an abstract idea or concept. It is an object. It is not an animal. It is not a tool. It is not food. I guess you could call it a device. It is electronic. It is technology. Is it able to play a song? No. Is it a form of physical media? No. Is it a man or woman? No. Appliance. Is TV an appliance? Perhaps. Does it have an automatic shut-off? No. Does it require electricity? Yes. Does it use a tuner to pick up broadcast signals? Yes. Can you play videos on it? Yes. Does it have a sleep timer? Yes. Can you use it to play video games? Yes. Is it a physical object? Yes. It has a screen. It has an audio and video outputs. Can you change its volume? Yes. Can you connect it to the internet? Well, I guess nowadays you can. Can you pause live TV shows? Yes. Does it have a remote control? Yes. Can it display images? Of course. It has parental control. You are thinking about television. Great. So how did I build this app? Well, I will show you. I started by going to my good friend ChatGPT and I told it, I am creating an app that will guess what the user is thinking about. I want to create a database for this which has 3 tables: questions, things and answers. The things table will contain all the things that can be guessed. The answers table will connect the things to the questions. Can you create those 3 tables in MySQL? So I started with this prompt to generate this MySQL table. So we have the questions table and the things table and the answers table. And it also added the foreign keys here. And then it provided us with some explanation of what it's doing. Then I asked it, can you create a PHP class? Because of course we are using the best language in the world, PHP, that represents a question. It should be able to fetch a random question from the database. It should also be able to save a new question to the database. Also, it should be able to fetch all the answers to that question from the database. Please use PDO for the database, and the answers should also be classes. And then it created this question class for me. And we have a fetch random method which fetches a random question from the database. And we have a save method that saves a question in the database. And then this fetch answers method that will fetch all the answers that are related to that question from the database. And it created this very simple answer class. And again, we got some explanation. So then I wanted to take this a bit further. So I said, can you modify the code so that an answer object will also have an ID and that I can save answers to the database? And then it added this section into the fetch answers method. So it will loop through the answers and then it will create a new answer object and give it an ID and a thing ID and a thing name. And then it created this add answer method that connects the answer to the question. And then it created this save method to the answer class and added these public properties. And of course, we got some explanation again. So then I moved around some of the files and I told ChatGPT about it. And then I wanted to create a guess class. This class should keep track of all the questions that have been asked. It should also keep track of the points for each answer related to that guess. You can add a question to the guess with an answer. If the answer is yes, you should add points to the answer. If the answer is no, you should subtract points from the answer. And then it created this guess class, which has an add question method, which takes a text as a string and then creates that question and saves it in the database. Not really what I wanted. And then it has this method to add an answer to a question, and then a method to update the points of an answer and to get the points for an answer. But now this seemed to me a bit too complicated, and I didn't really want to create a new question in this case. I wanted to fetch a question from the database to do this. So I told ChatGPT, I think that solution is too complicated. Here's my implementation. Can you finish this class? So I created this boilerplate of a class that has an array of questions and an array of points. And then I added some doc block here that this array should have a key of the answer ID, and then the value should be a sum of the answers, +1 for yes and -1 for no. And we have a constructor, and then I created this answer method, which takes a question and a Boolean answer, but I didn't implement this. Same thing with the current guess, so this should return what is the current best guess based on the answers. And then I want to have the confidence, like how confident is it that the question is correct. So basically just the difference between the best points and the second best points. And then I wanted to create a JSON representation of this so that I can save it on the disk, so that I can persist the guess over multiple requests. And then of course I need to get it back from the JSON. So I added these methods, but I didn't implement them at all. So then ChatGPT came up with this. The answer method. First, we fetch the answers of that question. Then we loop through all of the answers, and then we add points or subtract points, depending on the answer. And this just initializes it at 0 so that we don't get an error if it doesn't exist yet. And then the current best guess will loop through all the points and get the answer ID and the score, and then compare the score to the best score, and then finally return the best answer. Now, here it is unnecessarily loading the answer from the database every time. So in the end, I modified it so that it will only load the question here when it gets the best answer. And then here we just get the confidence, so the difference between the best points and the second best points. So first we sort the points array, and then we get the values, which are the points, and then the maximum will be the first one, and the second maximum will be the second one. And then we just subtract them. And then here we create the JSON. And here we create a guess class from the JSON. And again, of course, we got this thorough explanation. And then I realized that although it used this load method of the answer class, it did not implement it previously. So here we have the answer class, but there is no load method. So then I told it, can you finish this answer class so that it has the load method and a way to set the question ID? So I pasted its own class here, and then it returned with a new class that has the load method here and a set question ID method. Then I needed a database connection. So I asked it to create the database variable with a connection to localhost to a database guesser with the username admin and the password admin. And then it gave me this connection code. I can never remember this DSN and this error mode attribute. So ChatGPT is a very good help in these kind of situations, because you rarely have to use the database connection, because you just set it up at first in the beginning of a project and then it's there. You don't have to worry about it. Now, at this point, I got the basic functionality working. But now, of course, I don't have any things to guess or any questions to guess. So how do I solve this? Well, I said I have a function create questions, which I didn't have at the time. I just pretended like I had it, which will take a word and create questions associated with that word. Now I want to create a trainer class that has a train method that will take a word and then use the create questions function to create questions. And the train class should save those questions to the database along with the word. Can you create that train class? So now it created this beautiful class which has a train method that gets the questions with create questions, which again does not exist yet, and it creates a new thing with the name we provided and saves it in the database. And then it loops through all the questions and saves that question to the database and saves its answer to the database as well. So now we had a method to train the app, but still we don't have any training material. So next I told it to create the thing class, because it created a thing here, but we don't have a thing class. So then it created this, a thing class with an ID and a name and a save method and a static load method, which loads the data of the thing from the database. And we have an explanation here as well. Now this is the end of this conversation. Then I had to figure out, how do I get a list of things? Now, of course, we can use ChatGPT to do this. So I started a new thread and I asked it, create a comma-separated list of 1,000 common household items. And it told me, I'm sorry, but it's not feasible for me to generate a list of 1,000 common household items in a single response, as it would take a significant amount of time. Now, I had tested this the previous day already, and I got the list, but now it didn't work anymore. But then I realized that in the newest version of ChatGPT, at least the paid version, they just changed it so that there is a fast model and a legacy model. And the previous day, the legacy model was the default model. So then I changed it back to the legacy model, and then I got this. First, I got a list of 1,000 common household items. Now, this is not actually 1,000, it stopped it short, and there are some duplicates, but still a pretty nice list. And then I asked it for a list of 1,000 most common animals, and then we got a list of animals as well. And then I asked for a comma-separated list of 1,000 celebrities, and then we got a bunch of celebrities as well. And I asked for some computer-related items as well. So now I had a very nice and comprehensive list of things. So now I needed the questions. Now, ChatGPT, of course, can make questions for you, but currently there is no API, at least not an official one, for ChatGPT. So I had to figure out a different solution. Now, in a previous video, I created this ChatGPT-like chatbot that I named affectionately ChatWTF. If you want to see how I made this, you can click up here to watch the video. So this chatbot uses the OpenAI API to act as a programming helper. So I can say something like, create the Fibonacci sequence in PHP. And then it will think for a while and it will give me the answer. And here we have the Fibonacci sequence with a for loop in PHP. So I repurposed this chatbot and I created questioner chat. And here I can write a word like monkey, and then it will think for a while and it will spit out some questions for me. Is it a mammal? Is it an animal? Does it have 2 arms and 2 legs? Does it have fur? Does it have a tail? So here's a quick explanation of how this works. So I created this prompt, create 5 questions that would be answered yes about an object or item or person or thing. Only use it to refer to the thing in the questions, not its name. Make at least half of the questions specific to that thing so that the answer would be no if you were to ask it about another thing, and so on. And then it just adds the object here as the chat message that I give it. And then it spits out the answer. So now I had a way to generate questions and I had a list of things that I can generate questions about. So then I trained the app overnight and then the next day I came and I tried it out. And it worked, but it wasn't that great. I had to answer like maybe 60 or 100 questions before it got it right. So for the next week, I tweaked it and I changed the prompts and I changed the rules, how it calculates the confidence and how it gives the points and all this stuff. And then finally I had to add categories. So then I created this categorizer which asks for a list of categories for a given thing. And then I have some examples: celebrity, household item, singer, actor, actress, musician, and this. And then I added that to the trainer so that for every word it gets the questions and it gets the categories. And even that wasn't quite enough. So then I created this top categorizer, which will select one of these: person or character, object, animal, or other. So then I loop through all of the categories that I created for the things and set a top category for all of them. And then after changing all the parameters in the code back and forth and trying all kinds of things, how to select the categories, how to narrow down the choices and all this stuff, I finally got it to work pretty well, as you saw in the demo. Now, here is my final guess class, which I pretty much wrote from scratch after ChatGPT did it, because the code ChatGPT does is not that pretty. It's not formatted in the right way, but the basic idea is still the same. So when we set an answer, we set an answer to either a category or a question. And then if it's a category, we go through all the other categories and we answer no to those categories. And then we go through the things that are related to that question or category, and then we add points. Now, at first we add 1 point, but then if we have asked more than 30 questions, we add 3 points. If we have asked more than 20 questions, then we add 2 points. This just seemed to work. I tried many things, and this seemed to work pretty well. And then we save the questions that we have asked and the guessed categories and the categories that we have answered yes to. And the current guess is pretty much the same still. And then I created this next guess, which I'm not quite sure if I used it in the end. This gets the thing that has the most points but still has unanswered questions. And here the confidence is still the same. I changed this many times, but I ultimately used the original one. And then this one is to get the top X guesses. I used it for debugging, and I might have ultimately used it in the algorithm as well. I don't quite remember how I ended up doing it. Then I created this best guesses, which is kind of similar to the next guess, but instead of only returning one, it returns all the best guesses that still have unanswered questions and that have the same amount of points. So like the top level of things. And then this best category function, this gets all of the best guesses, so the items that have the most points, and gets all the categories of those guesses and calculates which category is in most of those questions. So that is going to be the category which we ask about to narrow down the results. And ultimately, I moved from using JSON to just putting the guess in the session so that you can have multiple users at the same time. I don't know if this is the best solution, but it works. And I added some logging because there was a lot of testing involved in this. And let me show you the trainer here. So the trainer gets a questioner and a categorizer and a top categorizer. And then it takes the thing name and then it searches the database for that thing. If it doesn't find one, it will create it. Otherwise, it will use the original one. So I can retrain some word if I want to ask more questions about it. And then it will create the questions for it. And it will see if the question is already in the database. It will use that, otherwise it will create a new one. And then it will add an answer for that question. And then it will create some categories for the thing and the top category for the thing. And then it will loop through all the categories and get their top category. And only if the thing's top category is the same as the category's top category, then it will use it. Because sometimes when you categorized a thing, it was an animal, but then you took the category that the animal belongs to and you took that category's category, then it was an object. So it caused some problems, so I added this. And then again, we get the category by name if it's already in the database, otherwise we create a new one. And then we save the reference of the category to the thing. And this creates the questions. So it uses the questioner to ask about this word. And it will take the response and trim it. And then I had to add this because the OpenAI API doesn't always work. There was lots of errors. So I just added, if there was an error, then we sleep for 5 seconds and we try it again. So then that solved the issue. And then we filter the response into a list and we remove questions that have the name of the word in the question. Because even though I said it in the prompt that don't use its name, sometimes it used it, so I added this. And the categories work in a similar way. We use the categorizer to ask about the word, and then we filter the list. and top category is the same thing. And the filter list first splits the answer by new lines and semicolons. Now, I had a lot of trouble with this to get it in the right format, because first I asked it to put one per line, but sometimes it put a dash in front of the line, sometimes there was a number, and sometimes they were all just there. No new lines, no anything. So then finally I asked to put a semicolon, then that seemed to work pretty well. So I just trim all the items, I remove the empty items, and I remove the numbers from the beginning. And that's the trainer. That's how it works. How I use it is I have a train.php here, which will initialize the questioner, categorizer, and top categorizer, and the trainer, and then it will read the words from this list.txt. And then just loop through all the words and train them. Now, I had another problem with this, that because the questions are generated by the AI, they are always a bit different. So it might ask something like, has he won Academy Awards? And then he might ask about some other person, has he won several Academy Awards? Or it might use it instead of he, or she instead of he, or something like this, even though I said just use it. So then I had to remove the duplicate question. Now, at first I asked ChatGPT if I could create some kind of prompt to do this. And it gave me this answer. One approach is to use NLP, natural language processing, and comparing the cosine similarity. So then it gave me this prompt how I can do it. So then I tried it in the playground, and it wasn't that great, because I asked here, has it won multiple Academy Awards? And has it won several Academy Awards? Then the similarity is 0.7, which is not good enough. These are pretty much the same. So I couldn't really get it to work. I kind of got it to work, but then also I should have made, again, queries to the OpenAI API for every single question. So it would have taken a long time and cost a lot of money. So I tried to find another solution. And since ChatGPT pointed me towards the cosine similarity, then I did some Googling and I found this article, Similarity Between Text in PHP, in medium.com. And here we have a PHP implementation of the cosine similarity algorithm. Now, here's this beautiful function. Thank you very much to Adrian Mihaila. This uses the PHP NLP tools library to do it. So I created my similarity.php script that uses that cosine similarity from the NLP tools. Now, first I created this function to normalize the text. So first I made it lowercase, and I removed everything except spaces and letters, and then I removed the extra spaces, and I removed all the ing from the end, because sometimes the questions were very similar, but one question had the ing in the end. I can't think of an example right now, but there were many examples like this. And then I converted from are it to does it have, and are there to does it have, because it sometimes made a question like, are its hooves cloven? But it might also ask, does it have hooven cloves, however you say that word. And are there was similar to that, so I replaced them. I didn't replace them in the actual question, just for this normalization. And then I removed all the articles, and she and he will be converted to it, and contain will be converted to have, require to need, and for into to, and also I forgot to do anything about this. Maybe I wanted to convert as well to also, but I forgot. And then this one was open source software to open source. Because if you ask, is it open source? It is the same thing as, is it open source software? Now, you could add more things to it, but this seemed to work pretty well. And then we just use this validate similar text function here. And we select all the questions from the database, and we loop through all of them, and then we loop through all of them again for each of the questions. And then we compare them here, and if the similarity is more than 0.95, that seemed to be the sweet spot. Then we decide which question we keep, and I just decided to take the one that has the smallest length. And then I update the answers table so that the question that we're going to delete will be converted to the one that we're going to keep. And then I added this to add a question mark to the question, because sometimes they were missing question marks. And then we delete the old question. So I ran this and it took maybe 20 minutes to do with, I don't know, 12,000 questions, how many I have in the database. Yeah, 12,000 questions, but it was a lot faster than if I would have used the OpenAI API for all of these questions. And that's pretty much it. That's how I created the app. Now, if you want to try this, I will leave a link in the description for a website where you can try this. And also the source code of this will be in my GitHub, for which the link is in the description as well. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Let's try one more thing with this. Start over. And I will think about the PHP language. Does it belong to the category abstract idea or concept? Well, yes, it does. It is not a person or character or other, well, object or thing. I think it's more an abstract idea, not an animal, not an object. Ha! It is a programming language. Does it have a large and active community? It does. Does it include strict compile time checking? Absolutely not. Does it have a large library of functions? Yes. Can it be used to create effects on web pages? No. Is it widely used in the industry? It is. It is not an object-oriented language, even though you can use it that way. Is it mainly used for software development? No. Can it be used to send and receive cookies? Yes. Does it have built-in modules for different purposes? It does. It does require a web server to run. Does it have its own database system called MySQL? Its own database system? Okay, yes. Can it be used to generate graphs and charts? Well, technically, but I will say no. Yes, it is a programming language. Does it have a web-based interface? What does that mean? I don't know. Does it offer robust security features? No. Can it be used for online shopping? Well, to create a shopping, is that what it means? Does it run on a server? Yes. Does it support object-oriented programming? Yes. Can it be used for data analysis? Sure, why not? Does it support multiple languages? No, it's a language. I believe it is open source. Is it compatible with most web servers? It is. Are there multiple versions? Yes. Can it be used to develop websites? Yes. Does it have support for protocols such as SMTP and POP3? Yes. Can it be embedded in HTML? Well, it depends what you mean. Not on client side, but yes. You are thinking about PHP. Great, it works. That is amazing. Let me know if you try it out, if it works for you. Pretty impressive, I have to say. Like, sometimes I'm just surprised by how quickly it knows what I'm thinking about. Now, you're gonna say, well, you trained it on PHP. Think of something else, like Rust. Well, let's try Rust. It is an abstract idea. It's a programming language. Low-level control, yes. Multi-platform support, yes. Static typing, yes. Large and active community, yes. Functional-like approach, no. Does it prioritize safety, productivity, and speed? Safety and productivity. At least safety, yes. Memory safety, yes. Strict compile time checking, yes. Zero-cost abstractions. I have no idea what that means, so I will say no. I don't know. Does it support programming without garbage collection? Yes, it does. Does it focus on safe concurrency? Yes. Is it designed for high-level projects? Yes. Does it use a modern programming paradigm? It does. Does it have a user-friendly syntax? I don't think so. Is it known for its performance? Yes. Does it provide helpful debugging tools? It does. It is a programming language. I guess it's open source. Is it backed by the Mozilla Foundation? I think it, in fact, is. Does it have a powerful type system? It does. Can it be used to generate graphs and charts? Sure. Does it allow for the development of web applications? Well, technically, yes. There is no web-based interface. You are thinking about Rust programming language, so it knows that too. Great. So this is going to be the end of today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and will share it to your friends. And click the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.